Welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent us your curiosity and quite a mix of sources. Our job, basically pull out the key stuff you need so you're really informed, but, without that overwhelming feeling.
Exactly. And today we're getting into something that, well, probably touches a lot of us, how we start our day. The listener shared some great material, a Reddit thread, a YouTube video with Hal Elrod himself.
Right, the miracle morning guy?
Yeah, him. And also several articles looking at morning routines and the whole idea of being intentional about that first part of the day.
So for you, our listener who's maybe trying to get up to speed quickly, see different perspectives, and have those aha moments without getting buried in information. We're diving into the miracle morning, what's behind it, and also those broader ideas about, why that morning time could actually be pretty powerful. Consider this your shortcut.
Yeah, focused look. Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with Hal Elrod's story. It's kind of the foundation for all this.
Good idea. His background is, well, pretty intense. He went through some major adversity. There was that really bad car accident.
Right, where he was technically dead for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then later, he hit a huge financial crisis during the 2008 crash. So these weren't small bumps in the road.
No, definitely not. And it was during that financial struggle, wasn't it, that he had this kind of turning point.
Yeah.
He heard a Jim Rohn quote.
That's the one. Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development. That really hit home for him.
So how did he, internalize that? What did it mean for him practically?
Well, he looked at his life, his health, finances, relationships, all of it, and he kind of rated himself. He felt his personal development was maybe only a level 2 or 3, but his goals were way up at level 10.
Ah, okay. So he saw this gap.
Exactly. A big gap between who he was and who he needed to be to achieve the success he wanted. He realized his daily habits weren't really helping him grow.
And that realization kind of lit a fire under him, right? To find out what highly successful people actually do for personal development.
Yeah, he went on this desperate search almost. He started researching practices, experimenting, and that's how he landed on these 6 core habits that became the Miracle Morning.
But it wasn't called that right away.
No, not at first. That came later, maybe a couple months in. He started doing these things consistently, and things genuinely started turning around for him. His depression lifted, income went up, felt better physically.
Wow.
And his wife noticed this huge shift and apparently said something like, "It's your miracle morning," and the name just stuck.
That's a great origin story. It also connects to this concept he talks about, the 95% reality check.
Yeah. The idea that most people, 95% of society, end up settling for less than what they really want, living lives of maybe quiet mediocrity or unfulfilled potential.
Which sounds a bit bleak, but his point isn't that it's inevitable, is it?
No, not at all. He argues it's often because people don't consciously choose something different. He lists these causes of mediocrity. Things like living in the past, he calls it rearview mirror syndrome, not having a clear purpose, treating small bad choices like they don't add up.
Isolating incidents, yeah.
Right. Lack of accountability, hanging around uninspired people, not actively working on yourself, and just sort of no sense of urgency to change things.
It really paints a picture of how easily you can drift into that, doesn't it?
It does, but the counterpoint is powerful. The idea of making a conscious decision, drawing a line in the sand, as he puts it, deciding today to start building something better, not tomorrow or next week.
Okay, so that urgency, that decision, it leads directly to the practical steps, which is where the SAVERS come in.
Exactly. The life SAVERS. It's the acronym for the 6 practices he built his own transformation on.
Let's break that down. SAVERS stands for?
Silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing.
Got it. And he positions these as proven timeless practices, not just things he made up.
Right. And something interesting that came up in the Reddit source was flexibility. The order isn't set in stone. People adapt it. The main thing is trying to touch on all 6.
Okay, let's dive into each one, starting with S for silence. What does that actually involve? It's not just sitting there doing nothing, right?
No, it's purposeful silence. It could be meditation, prayer, just quiet reflection, deep breathing, focusing on gratitude, things like that.
Which feels kind of rare these days, doesn't it? With phones buzzing all the time.
Totally. He makes a point that we've kind of lost those moments of quiet contemplation that used to be more natural. Silence helps quiet the mental chatter, reduce stress, gain clarity.
He also has this specific technique, emotional optimization meditation.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's about deciding how you want to feel confident, calm, focused, whatever, and then using the silence to really cultivate that feeling, to sort of marinate in it before the day starts.
So it's like proactively setting your emotional state for the day.
Exactly,
Yeah.
which ties into what was mentioned in the YouTube transcript about setting an intention. It's very deliberate.
Okay, moving to affirmations. Now, these can be a bit controversial, or at least misunderstood.
Yeah.
How does Elrod approach them?
Yeah, he tackles the common issues, like just repeating "I am rich" when you're broke often doesn't work because it feels fake, right? It creates resistance.
Right.
And also, using passive language like "good things happen to me" isn't very actionable.
So what's his method?
It's a three-step process. First, you affirm your commitment to something specific, a goal, a behavior, but you add this really strong phrase: no matter what, there is no other option.
Okay, that adds some serious weight.
Definitely. Second, you affirm why it's an absolute must for you. List your deepest reasons, the benefits for you, for others. He gave that example of his cancer affirmations.
Right, for his family, for himself, to inspire others.
Exactly. Connecting it to powerful motivations. And third, you affirm the specific actions you will take and when you'll take them, making it concrete.
So it links the desire, the commitment, and the actual plan. Makes sense. He mentioned Scott Adams, too, didn't he?
Yeah, the Dilbert guy. Adams apparently affirmed, Scott Adams, will be a famous cartoonist, and backed it up with consistent action, actually drawing every day.
It shows affirmations aren't just wishful thinking. They're meant to fuel commitment and action, and you can tailor them.
Yeah, have affirmations for different areas, or just start with one key goal if that feels more manageable.
Okay, next is visualization. Again, maybe not what people immediately think. He calls it mental rehearsal.
Yeah, which makes it sound much more practical, I think. It's not just picturing the finish line, the end result.
So what do you picture?
You mentally rehearse the process, the steps involved.
Yeah.
His example was training for an ultramarathon. Visualize the alarm going off, putting on your shoes, pushing through that difficult mile, especially when you don't feel like it.
So you're practicing the execution in your mind.
Exactly. It makes the actual action feel more familiar, less daunting. Plus, you also visualize achieving the commitment and feeling those positive emotions, which boosts motivation.
And there's something about visualizing before sleep, too.
Yeah, a brief mention that it might influence your subconscious or dream state, kind of priming you. It links to that idea from one of the articles about imagining who you need to be to succeed. Visualization helps bridge that gap.
Makes sense. Okay, ease for exercise. Does this mean a full-on gym session at 5 a.m.?
Not necessarily. The main goal is just to get your heart rate up, get the blood flowing. It wakes you up, boosts energy, improves mood.
There's science behind that, right? Neurotransmitters and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Places like Harvard Medical School talk about it. NAMI mentions the release of things like serotonin or epinephrine chemicals that help with mood, focus, energy. Even a short burst helps.
And didn't Robin Sharma say the benefits can last for hours?
Yeah, he mentioned potentially up to 13 hours of mental and emotional uplift.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be intense. Jumping jacks, a quick walk, yoga, anything to get moving.
Good to know. Next, R for Reading. This seems straightforward.
Pretty much. It's about modeling success, learning from experts. He suggests maybe 10 pages a day of something relevant to your goals. Self-help, business, whatever helps you grow. It's a fast track to new knowledge and strategies.
Makes sense. And finally, the second is describing. That's basically journaling.
Yes, writing things down, your thoughts, ideas, insights, what you learned, what you're grateful for.
Why is that helpful?
It brings clarity. Getting thoughts out of your head and onto paper can help you understand them better. It's great for self-discovery. Elrod specifically talks about gratitude journaling, being specific, and really feeling the gratitude, not just listing things.
And tracking progress, maybe. Looking back on lessons learned.
Absolutely. All part of it. Capturing those insights so they don't just float away.
Okay, so those are the SAVERS. But a really key theme across the sources was flexibility, right? It's not super rigid.
Definitely not. It's highly adaptable. You can customize the time spent on each. You can do a shorter version. Elrod's 6-minute miracle is proof of that. You fit it to your life.
And it doesn't even have to be morning, strictly speaking.
Right. That Ryan Delaney article made a good point. Find the routine and the time that works for you. Morning is often ideal because it sets the tone, but consistency is more important than the specific time slot.
Which brings us to the whole power of routine itself. This isn't just about mornings. It's about habits.
Exactly. The miracle morning taps into that power of ritual. Think about athletes like Michael Phelps, his super detailed pre-race routine. It creates focus, consistency, reduces decision fatigue.
And habit stacking comes into play here too, right? Linking these new behaviors together.
Yes. And recognizing that building habits takes time. That summary mentions stages: unbearable, uncomfortable, then unstoppable. Usually takes weeks, maybe a month or more to really lock it in.
So consistency over perfection is key. Doing something is better than skipping it entirely if you're short on time.
Absolutely. Progress, not perfection.
Now, we should probably touch on potential concerns or criticisms.
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows, is it?
No, and it's good to acknowledge that. Some might see it as just another wellness trend. Dr. Olivieri Daniel raised that point about a potential obligation to be well, which can feel like pressure.
And it does require real commitment, long-term, to see the big benefits. It's not a quick fix.
True. And again, the best routine is the one that works for you personally. There shouldn't be pressure to follow Elrod's model exactly if it doesn't fit.
What about the idea that it's selfish to take this time for yourself first thing?
That came up too. But the counter-argument, like Ryan Delaney said, is that it's self-care, not selfish. Taking care of yourself allows you to show up better for others. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Good point. So, at its heart, what's the core benefit of doing something like the Miracle Morning?
I think it's that shift from being reactive to proactive. Instead of waking up and immediately getting pulled into emails, news, other people's demands.
Yeah, letting the day happen to you.
Right. This gives you a space to intentionally create your state, set your focus, boost your energy before the day grabs hold of you. You're starting on your own terms.
So wrapping this up, the big takeaway seems to be the real power in starting your day deliberately, focusing on your own growth. It can ripple out positively into everything else.
It really can. And that leads to a good thought for you, listening. Out of those SAVRS silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, scribing, does one resonate more than the others right now?
Yeah, maybe just one.
Yeah.
And what's one tiny manageable step you could take, maybe even tomorrow, to just try incorporating that one thing? Doesn't have to be the whole system.
Exactly. Think about how your mornings look now. Is there one small tweak based on all this that you feel curious enough to experiment with?
Because the potential for growth, for positive change, it's definitely there. It's about finding what miracle, big or small, might unfold for you.
Well said. It's about exploring that potential, starting with how you meet the day.